So welcome to SGMP Florida Chapter's June meeting, and we have a wonderful speaker tonight, Janet Roach. She is with Visit Tallahassee. She's the Meetings and Conventions Director, and she's also our second vice president. And beyond that, she's a phenomenal person. She earned several awards, but at SGMP recently at National, she won an award. What was the award?
The Legacy Award.
Legacy Award. So kudos to you. I think I nominated you because she's that worthy. All right. So she's going to share her expertise on business management using industry knowledge to meet goals for meeting professionals. And I think you encourage interactivity, right?
For sure.
Okay. So jump in, anyone, at any time. I'll monitor the chat box too. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you all for being started.
Hang on, we're trying to change the audio here. Mute. All right, set. Go ahead and share it.
And I'm going to see if I can keep this open and just see this.
All right, thank you for letting us know. We're gonna start over here. Take two. Take two. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna mute you on that one. That way we're not getting. It's so weird. It's not letting me mute you.
Oh,
Okay.
it's not?
Nope.
I can hold on. I can.
We've got some technology challenges here, but here we go. We shall start over.
What it says, I'm not even signed on. That's what happened. I'm not
Oh,
signed on anymore.
Oh, but you're
It-
here.
It blocked.
All right, go ahead and
Okay.
All right, so
Well,
I'll tell you what, while
let me
she's
sign back.
logging back on, shall I boot you from the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, one moment. We are going to, yeah, well, I don't know, we're having a little technology issue here. So I'll tell you what, Tammy just joined us. Tammy, tell us a little bit about you. Tammy? Okay. Colleen, are you there?
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, there's Tammy. Great.
Yeah. So who am I talking to that doesn't know that there are other people online?
Yeah, just there's other people on the line, including Elizabeth.
Okay. Hi Elizabeth. So my name is Tammy Elliott. I am a senior administrative and event coordinator. My department is Florida Virtual Campus, not to be confused with Florida Virtual School. And we are a department under Florida State University. So I work in the Library Services Division at FLVC.
I did.
Thank you so much. So you do meeting planning, right, Tammy?
Yeah, meeting and event planning, and I'm also the executive assistant to our executive director.
Okay, someone typed in the chat box that we're all frozen. Are we frozen right now? Let us know if we're frozen.
You're not frozen anymore.
Okay,
It was
good.
probably
We
because
had
my
a
computer-
strange technology. I like to say hiccup, but it was a belch.
Yeah,
So-
I think my computer bumped me off the
Yeah.
thing. Okay.
Okay, Colleen, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you do, and then we're gonna start over.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Colleen Flagey. I'm the Executive Events Director for the President's Office at the University of Florida. So I also am an event planner.
Very good, thank you. So as I was saying, when apparently there was no sound, we have with us, and go ahead and share your screen. Oh, I have to reinstate host permissions.
We're
I mean, I don't know about you all, but yesterday was a Monday and today feels like a Monday too. So we are having all kinds of challenges here. But you got it?
we're gonna.
Okay. So we are honored to have Janet Roach with Visit Tallahassee speaking, and she's going to share her expertise with us, and she encourages interaction. Janet just won a Legacy Award at SGMP National Education Conference. I nominated her because she's awesome.
I'm working on it.
And
I'm sorry.
yeah, no, it's okay. I'm filling time here. I used to work in broadcasting,
Hey, we're
so
working on it.
so Janet is about to share her screen and
We're
we will
getting
get
there.
started. But her topic is business management using industry knowledge to meet goals for meeting professionals. She's also our second vice president, and she's the meetings and conventions director for Visit Tallahassee. So thank you for being here, Janet.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so what I wanted to do is start by saying, using industry knowledge to meet our goals, I think is crucial in business. And especially as a meeting professional, staying up on trends, just like, we need to know what's going on with AI, and we need to know what our attendees want. And so this is really, I think, an important topic. And really, the landscape is constantly changing, and just managing the logistics is just not enough anymore. So as meeting professionals, understanding industry knowledge is really, I think, a strategic asset that we can all gain to do a better job of servicing our clients as well as our membership or our attendees. So what's the secret ingredient that separates industry leaders from the rest? Often it's not hard work, but smart work, informed by deep industry insights. Really, who do you respect? You respect those that have longevity and knowledge of the industry, and they become our mentors. They become the people we call when we're in a bind. And so really those industry leaders, and using the knowledge that we've learned from that to meet our goals. We're going to talk a little bit about our learning objectives here. So we're going to explain how leveraging industry insights directly contributes to success, identify actionable techniques and resources for staying current with your knowledge, and developing strategies for integrating industry insights in your planning. And this planning, is yes, this is meant for a meeting planner, but also for those of us who are suppliers. We plan and we're strategic in the decisions we make and in the shows we go to and how we even attend a networking event. So really being strategic is, I think, key. Okay, we're going to map our success here. So as a professional, it's important to consider personal growth and satisfaction, professional success, and how we acquire that knowledge. So for personal growth and satisfaction, this leads to an enhanced career prospects. Are you looking for a new job? Are you looking for that promotion? Expanding our network of people, having greater adaptability with our career. Professional success, creating opportunities. Are you looking for the next big group, or are you looking for your boss to be wowed by your attendance? Establishing a competitive advantage and fostering strong client relationships. And then also how to acquire Industry knowledge is ongoing process of involving and actively engaging.
Can you just hide that? Yeah,
Huh?
just click the hide.
Hide. Oh,
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. Okay. I'm like, what is just okay. Okay, so we're going to acquire industry knowledge, which is the ongoing process of how we do that. And we're going to dive into just a little bit more detail here. And I think we'll have some fun. Okay. So the first step is define your goals. You know, who are your business, what are your business objectives? Are we interested in increasing market share? Are we continuing to, do we want more attendees? We're going to map the trends that we're going to use. So what trends will help us meet our goals? We're going to look at our competitors. We're going to look at not only from hotel to hotel, but also from, you know, other meetings and look at what they're doing and what's been successful and maybe what we can look at and try to do, or also, you know, maybe what may not be worth our time. And we're going to, you know, really use research for this. And then we're also going to poll our customers, you know, our members, our clients. We're going to ask them what it is they want from us. You know, what do we want? You know, and we're going to target those questions and be able to incorporate that into our goal. And obviously, we're going to apply that information in a real life example here. So I picked a example of our SGMP Education Summit that's upcoming. And what I want to say is that, you know, this is, you know, we decided we were going to have the conference or the summit. And then it was like, okay, how do we make that into something that our membership wants? How do we make money? How do we get partners involved? So these are all those things that we're thinking we need. But by using trends, the next slide, we're going to talk about some trends in 2025. So these are some trends that CVET says are trends in 2025. So all of these obviously don't apply to our specific event, but let's just take a look at these 9. And then on the next slide, we're going to delve into the ones that do apply to this specific SGMP summit. So it's all about personalization. We all love that. Using AI to drive productivity and partnership. Data activation is still a challenge, so we have to look at that, but also using data for our benefit in research. Relationships, the trend number 4, return on relationships is what they're calling it. But really, this is just bringing back the one-on-one and building relationships to be successful in business. Field marketing events are driving business growth. Event content that will fuel our marketing all year. Unique venues and destinations are very popular right now. And technology supporting accessible best practices. And then hotel and venues adopting smarter tools for data privacy. Like I said, all of these don't necessarily apply to our summit, but on the next slide, I'm going to show you which ones do. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about these. So we're having a summit, and we know we want meeting planners and suppliers to come, and we want to drive that. So we're going to incorporate trend number 2. AI will drive productivity and partnership. AI can be used to help us create the flyers and content and maybe rework some of our wording, but also we're going to maybe offer a session at the conference or the summit that's going to incorporate this topic in there. So really utilizing and tapping into this goal, this trend to meet our goal. Number 4, return to relationships. At the summit, we're going to plan a meet and greet for the night before for the overnight attendees. We're going to incorporate networking at the event, and we're going to offer exhibits to provide networking time. Again, meeting these trends, you know, taking these trends and making them work for us to meet that goal. Trend number 6, event content to fuel the marketing campaigns for the year. Obviously, we're marketing this one event, but we've selected Len Milbauer as our keynote and emphasizing the importance not only of education, but that his topic with the art of exceptional customer service, innovation, and creating magical experiences meshes well with the mission of SGMP. We are all about education, networking, and sustainability, and that's what he's talking about as well. And then the last one, unique venues and destinations. We're using, we have a great partnership with the Mission Resort where we're going to have this event. And then also it's centrally located in the state, being that we are now no longer 2 chapters, we're going to be 1 chapter, picking our first summit to be in a location that is a little better centrally located for most of our attendees, I think is key. So again, incorporating these trends in the decisions we're making when we're planning an event. Okay. We talked about this a little bit already, but incorporating, hold on, page behind. So we're incorporating what our competitors and our clients are saying. And this is this is super key to being successful, when, as far as competitors from a hotel or a destination standpoint, you're always comparing yourself to your peers or to that other hotel in your comp set. And so, I think that's super important. What are they doing? One way that, like with this summit, Gabrielle and I looked at some other organizations like SGMP and what their summits look like, what their education looked like. Was it a half day? Was it a whole day? So looking at what competitors are doing and learning from that and taking that as a brief outline to get started. Obviously, we're not going to mirror them, and we're going to, just like with AI, you're going to take it and make it your own. But looking at what our competitors are doing is a good way to do that. How much do they charge? Do they have exhibitors and sponsorship? Okay. And then the 4th step is customer insights. What are your target customers telling you directly and indirectly about their needs and their preferences? In our case with SGMP and with this summit, what do our members expect? They're going to expect great education. They're going to expect some networking. They're going to expect, to see destinations and meeting planners and venues. So we want to make sure that we're going to deliver on that by making sure that we invite those people and that those folks are included in our thoughts and in our marketing. A good way to do this is polling to see interest. I know Gabrielle and I were in St. Louis for the National Education Conference, and she was polling the suppliers at our table to see how much they would pay for attendance and whether they thought they could be, able to attend. And so, polling is a great way to, get that information right now on where they stand. And then obviously then we're going to apply that practical knowledge. Okay. So how do you acquire industry knowledge? And so this is me, my little meeting professional. It's all things to all people, just like all the rest of us. And, this continuum of continuous learning, we have to have a plan. We have to be strategic, whether we want a promotion or we want to gain knowledge and credibility in our industry, maybe we're planning for a future job change. Maybe, many of us are already using these skills and incorporating them into our life, but I don't know that we're all using them strategically, and we can always improve even if we do. I think, as I look at this list, I certainly incorporate these in my work. But am I being strategic? Am I really setting a goal and then meeting it through gaining industry knowledge? So let's just obviously you can read the screen, but I just want to kind of touch on them. So continuous learning, staying informed, are you attending, are you getting a certification? Are you always learning? As a lifetime learner, this is key to me, and it's something that I really enjoy. And I think that brings me a lot of joy in my life, but it also helps me to be able to stay current, as well as being able to talk to people at networking events. So staying current and knowing what's going on really helps us. So seeking mentorship, I'm going to stop right here. Does anybody have a mentor or want to talk about a mentor? I don't know. I can't see the screen. Right here. Does anybody have a mentor that they want to talk about? Why don't we let Gabrielle talk about hers and then someone else can talk about
Sounds good.
one of theirs.
So I've had many mentors. Probably the biggest mentor I have is my father. And I have professional mentors too. And I do a lot of mentoring from high school to professionals. But I think no matter where you are in your career, you should always have a mentor. So
Right.
my dad is my biggest mentor, not only from a career standpoint, but from a personal standpoint. He just has excellent emotional intelligence. He seems to handle everything well. He works at NASA now. He worked in a high ranking position in the Air Force. And he's got all this work experience, yet he's just so cool and calm, never seems to be stressed out. And, everyone wants to be like him, and I'm one of them. So I kind of bounce things off of him when I have challenges.
Yeah.
And he always has insightful ideas and just tells me to, it's all going to be all right. And so, especially when I worked at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, it was different going from a civilian world to a military world. Even though I grew up in the military, it's different when you actually work in the military. And so I can't tell you how many times I went to my mentor, my dad, and said, "Dad, here's what happened during a meeting. What's going on? What do I do?" And yeah, but mentorship isn't always about just guidance. A lot of times for me, and what I teach people about mentoring is often it's helping the person find the answers in themselves. So to me, mentoring has evolved into a coaching, mentoring kind of relationship. So the people I mentor, I'm not going to give them the answers right away necessarily. I'm going to say, tell me a little bit about what you're thinking. What are some possible solutions? What do you think is going to work? What have you already tried?
Absolutely.
So
anybody else want to share about a mentor or even being a mentor? James, I know you could say something.
I was just unclicking or unmuting.
yay.
Yeah, I actually have a mentor that from my days in college up until today, and he actually happened to be my pastor as well. And just like Dr. Gabrielle, Dr. Bishop, Dr. Michael R. Moore, who is also an attorney, is an even keel gentleman, and I've never ever seen him raise his voice or get loud or seem to be stressed. And he seemed to always have answers. I asked him about a lot of different things. The interesting thing that he's such a mentor for me. We're members of the same organization, and whenever we have a meeting, I travel with him. I'm his driver, and I'm his roommate every time that we go to a conference. That way, I can pick his brain and learn so much about him. And another interesting piece about him, I didn't mention that. Did I mention? Yeah, he's an attorney as well. And as time passed on, this is about my eighth or ninth year being um, on the Florida bar. I'm one of the only few non-lawyers on the Florida bar as a result of wanting to get involved into law. When I was in the military, I wanted to do that as well, but I traveled too much and deployed a lot. But as a result of this particular mentor, we talk every we talk every week because he's my pastor. Matter of fact, I utilize some of I always talk with him, and I have certain talents that he seeks out, from me, and I don't have a problem with sharing whatever my talents are. But it is such a beautiful exchange that he's like a mentor. He's like a father. I always depend on him. He's definitely has shown me how to be a strong and an independent adult from my college years. to the present day. So love him like a father. He's an amazing man, and he's definitely a mentor for a lot of people that I know of. But he's a great guy.
Great, great. Anybody else have anything want to share about mentorship before we move on?
Gosh,
Okay,
it's a quiet group
that's
tonight.
okay.
Thank you, Dr. Moran, for chiming in there. Yeah.
So let's talk about getting involved. So obviously serving on committees, things like SGMP. But what I think about these is, personally, one of the things that I've been using serving on committees to do is to build my resume and to thank you. I can't see my screen. Is to use it as an opportunity to gain knowledge and using industry trends, so for example, I am meetings conventions director. I would love, which is a sales position, but I really feel like my future is going to be in marketing. And I do a lot of marketing in my job, but I feel like really and truly that's something for my future. And so what I've been doing is getting involved and serving on committees, on marketing committees, on sponsorship committees, and with different organizations I belong to. And not only is it something that's helping me feel a little more fulfilled as a person, it's also something that is allowing me to meet new people, which brings us into the next one, which is networking. We all network. I went to a networking event last night, and I'm going to tell a funny story on myself. So when I started at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, I was 25 and I had never networked before. And my boss said, we're going to go to this new hotel that's opening in Tallahassee. And, they're going to have a grand opening and we have to go. Well, she ended up getting sick and couldn't go. And she said, just go by yourself, Janet. You should just go by. And I walked into the hotel and I knew one person, the director of sales. And I walked in and I made a loop around the room. I saw the person I knew. I spoke to her, but obviously she's one of the hosts. So she can't, I don't want to monopolize her time. So I speak to her, make sure she's seen me. And then I continue on and I continued my circle and I walked out the door.
Oh, no.
And so here I am many years later. And when I look back at networking, I see myself in that and how much I've grown and how I've used, industry knowledge. But also, one of the things I use industry knowledge for is being able to have topics to talk about, being in the know or just being interesting. I think that, networking, I mean, even for someone like myself who is pretty extroverted, networking is really challenging. And so I always tell that story about myself because it really shows that just because I was extroverted didn't mean I knew what I was doing. So, the next time I went, I set a goal and I said, I'm going to go. And now when I travel by myself for work, one of the things I do ahead of traveling is on that opening reception, I always reach out to someone who I know is attending and I make a point of meeting up with them. And so I'm using networking not only to gain knowledge and to build relationships, but I don't go into networking without a plan. And so I think that that's, a way to help us all meet our goals. And like I said, I'm a very extroverted person, but I really don't love small talk. I would prefer to talk about, serious stuff or really, things about your person and get to know you as a person. So focusing on that relationship and building relationships is really the key to networking. Clients want to do business with you when you know them personally and when they can trust you and when they can call you and say, hey, I know that I need something from you. Can you help me? And so really and truly focus on relationships. And that goes back to, one of the trends, which is focusing on relationships. And then the last one here is research. I have AI powered tools. I mean, that is something that is right now in the industry and in all of our industries really growing by leaps and bounds by the day. You know, I attended a professional development training last week, and in that, you know, AI can create PowerPoints, can, you know, do this and create logos and do all these things, but, you know, I am not to a place where I trust what it's creating. And so I need to keep researching and practicing to get better.
If I might
Yeah,
say,
absolutely.
never trust it. What you're
Yeah.
doing is actually good,
Mhm.
because you need to look at what it's producing and then verify. Even if you're having it assimilate information, go to the original source, because sometimes it does say wrong things.
Right.
And sometimes I fight with it like a teenager. I really do. If I'm having it try to produce something and I'm like, that's not what I said, and then it'll misspell something that
And
it
it
was.
does that intentionally, so you can't copy it.
Yeah. So
I was gonna show, so I'm gonna go back on my slides for just a second and show you something that I did with AI. So here, and obviously there, it doesn't look perfect, but the professional growth and satisfaction, that was not the original logo that was there.
mhm.
And icon that was there. And so I shared the professional success icon with AI and said, could you create one that is professional growth and satisfaction? And it created one that was purple. And I said, oh, using orange. And so this is what I got. Now, it is not perfect. There's a circle around it, and I am not a graphic designer. But I just wanted to share that that was created in AI. Again, I'm trying, I'm practicing.
Mhm.
I'm using these, you know, these tools that we're learning to be able to, you know, to grow as a professional and to be able to be more successful.
Sometimes I take things into Canva from AI too.
Absolutely. Oh, I skipped. Okay. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to share with the group about any of these? Is anybody using any of these techniques or strategies? No. I'm looking, okay, we're gonna move on.
Janet,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Going back to AI, I think that's its own fascinating topic, and we were talking about it earlier. Universities are really pushing AI to allow for, I think, a lot of data to get into the system so that it can compile the data. But what you and Gabrielle were saying is absolutely true, because so much can be right, but it has to be verified, because some of it is incorrect. One thing that is interesting, though, is when applying the tool, especially in the event industry, how we can do it ethically versus unethically. And having some people use AI for a speaker intro, and it sounds wonderful and great, but it doesn't even sound human.
Right.
So I'm trying to learn, and maybe going back to what is the industry research right now on how we can balance utilizing it as a tool for good,
Right.
and being mindful of those pitfalls that we're not aware of until we unfortunately experiencing them ourselves. So I am interested in learning more on how we can learn from others before we have to learn it ourselves the hard way.
Right. And I think that, you know, I'm dabbling, you know, when I have to write a board report for work, you know, I write it and then I say, or I write an email and I say, could you, check this for grammar and, you know, help me make it as clear as possible. You know, and so, you know, again, it's in those prompts. I think there are some people who are becoming experts at the prompts and, you know, how much information. There are programs out there. Like I said, I went to a professional development last week, and there's a gentleman who has a marketing company, and I can't remember the name of it right now, but there's a AI tool that he puts books, content, uh, you know, profiles, all the stuff in it, and then it spits out information for him to start. So it really is, it allows him to be ahead of where he started. You know, I think AI can be, you know, I find that I get as much junk as as good information. But I think some of that is the prompts, and also I'm not providing enough resources for AI to give me. I'm counting on AI to have all the information, where I really think we need to be, the future is going to have programs where we put, our policy manual and our last year's education program and this, that, and the other in there. And we say, help us come up with some topics for this year. So I think that some of it is, we're on the cusp of some really cool, tools, but they're not ready for everyday use yet. Like I said, I've been playing more than I've been using, and I'm, like I said, using it to help me rewrite something or help me improve something. It's kind of like, okay, so let's talk about PowerPoints. So, I feel like it's kind of similar, you put something in a PowerPoint, and then over on the side it has suggested layouts. Some of them are yucky and you would never use them, and then some look really great. And so I think AI is the same. You take the parts that you like and you keep them, and then the other parts you discard. But also research in the fact in this is, know about your industry, know about meetings. Are you looking at a certification? Are you keeping up on what other people know? I attended also at my professional development last week was, I did a half day about planning festivals. And it was quite interesting, the tools that they're using for payment and tracking and, planning out what the venue looks like. And I know meeting planners and there are programs out there, and many of us, make our own. But there are those tools are becoming more and more useful and more as say expansive about what they can do. So I think that's just something for us to look at. Does anybody else have anything they want to share about any of these?
I would say one thing about tools, especially AI tools, is that they start to learn your preferences.
They do.
And so they kind of get better the more you use them. Kind of like Siri. If anyone uses Siri, gets a little better the more you talk to her, the more she gets to know your voice and your preferences. And it's the same kind of thing with AI. So it learns your preferences. Grammar tools, all these tools that are out there do start to learn things. Are they perfect? No. Always verify. Always.
Right. And, I think the thing is, all of these things we're talking about are really, gaining industry knowledge to meet our goals is really about being strategic and being smart about planning. And as meeting professionals, I think that's something we do all the time. But, like I said at the beginning, I don't know that I always am strategic. I think I come off sometimes as being a little flippant, but I really do try to be pretty strategic. And, I have my goals, but, I think that, we have to have a plan, and like I was talking about, whether you're trying to advance in your career or whether you're trying to get a promotion, or, you just want to be able to know what's next in your life. Elizabeth, it looks like you have your hand up. What would you like to share?
Yeah, I attended the Cater Source conference a few months ago,
Yeah.
and every speaker was talking about AI and mostly a lot of Chat GPT. And I'd never experimented with it. So I dabbled in it some. And then because we are under the Army umbrella and the Army rules and regulations, we are not allowed to use Chat GPT or any AI software. So I have an app on my phone, but that's about it. So I'm a little jealous because it did it helped me kind of stretch my box a little bit as far as like my vocabulary for marketing, things like that. So
that's so interesting. I worked for the Army, and I think that's not very Forward thinking of them
Mhm.
to exclude communication by a tool that most of the world is using now.
Well, and
Right.
it will become more and more. I mean, it's kind of like the BlackBerry, right? You know, it went by the wayside, but the government kept it many more years than the rest of the world. Elizabeth, I think that, you know, I actually have been playing around talking about Chat GPT. I've been using Gemini more recently, and Gemini, I think, is a little more casual and less formal for me.
Mhm.
And maybe
Okay, I'll check that
because I'm
out.
using it. So I started with Chat GPT, you know, doing a few things, and it was great. But I have found that Gemini is for me a little more my voice. And I don't know
Okay,
if that's
thank
me,
you.
my prompts, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
you know, again, we don't know where it comes from. Dr. Moran, I see your hand up as well.
Unmute yourself. Unmute.
I am. I was looking at another screen. I was trying to find something else while I was looking at another screen. Um, I also have purchased Chat GPT and have been using it and and working on the prompts, but it has not, and I'm sure that it's possibly me. I've been
Mhm.
working on my book, and some parts of it, or if I put in um, some information that I drafted and ask it to find my voice, I'm finding that it's not exactly finding my true voice. The reason why I say that is I'm doing a period piece of back in 1857 when the Queen's English, so to speak, was not in the Southern dialect, if you will. And I've been asking it to speak as if it was um, back during that particular time. And it has some difficulties, but I'm trying to get it to develop the voice from my writing, and it does something a little bit different that begins to frustrate me. The other part is that I'm asking what is the best tool to develop a logo. I'm working on developing a logo for my business and just using regular chat GPT to develop a logo. It misspells things just like
Yeah,
you
it
were
does. Yeah.
alluding to. I say, how can it misspell simple things? You
Right.
Well,
know,
what's
but
bad is that you give it the
mhm,
spelling and then it changes the
exactly.
spelling.
I think it does that.
It also, sometimes like when I had it try to do a flyer for, we had a speaker, we had Renee, the survivor of the Miracle on the Hudson.
Mhm.
And she spoke, and I had it develop a flyer, and I didn't even realize it took the photo. I told it to add this photo to the flyer, and it cleaned up her photo. And
Mm,
so I
So
sent
it
it to her.
revised.
Yeah, I sent it to her, and she said that, wait a second. It
I threw
like
that in my
changed,
photo.
it changed things about her, changed her skin tone. It removed her wrinkles. I didn't ask it to do that. So I said, no, use the. So I'll tell you one thing for your writing that you might want to do, Dr. Moran, is give it an example of, say, a page that you wrote yourself.
right. And I
And
did do
so
that.
you did that.
Yeah, I did do that. I put an entire page in there
Mhm.
and it changed the page. I mean,
Yeah,
definitely it was no longer my voice at all. And so
yeah,
I think
um,
there are other
yeah, there are.
programs. Again, I'm not an expert on AI, but I think there are some other programs that are better for certain applications. But I think it's, you know, we're all learning, and I think it's great that
right,
you're
right.
trying.
I mean, I joke that it is like a teenager in many ways. So you can get it
Yes.
to do what you want it to do. It just sometimes
Hmm.
takes a lot of effort.
Now it's
It
fun.
does. And
I
the
have no more choices.
Well, so and do you have the paid version?
yes, I paid
Yeah,
for it.
I
Yes.
do too. So with the
Hmm.
paid version, it's
Monthly.
not going to tell you you're out of options. So with the
Right,
unpaid version, it'll say, you wait 24 hours and come back. We've given you all we can. But with the paid
right.
version, you can get, but I'll tell you, sometimes what you have to do is do a start over, do a whole new chat, because it gets confused with the things that you're telling it. I
Yeah.
would just encourage you to keep working with it and, you know.
Yeah, I am. I haven't
Mhm.
given up on it. I'm still working on other books as well. And I'm going back into it. And the other part that I was asking was about the best AI tool for developing logos. What I found though, when I try to work on a book cover, it may give my subject more than five fingers on one hand. I've noticed it may, when I look at AI images, that I may have two pinkies, on the rendering of an individual that I'm asking it to develop my cover.
Do you
So
tell it to
that's
fix
very
it?
strange. Yeah, and then it changes it altogether.
Completely. I know, I know,
It
I
gives
know.
me something totally different.
I'll tell you, this is why what I like to do is use it for brainstorming ideas. And so
Uh-huh.
maybe it gives you an idea about a logo. Maybe even it's something you can work with, like
And then you hire
like
some.
Janet was doing. Now, what I like to do, because I'm creative, is I go into Canva then. Canva is a much better tool. It just takes
Yeah, I
more effort.
understand.
It's not
Yeah.
it has some AI built into it, but it's not quite there.
I agree.
Canva's great though. And so you
Yeah, my
take
colleagues
what
at work use it,
Mhm.
and I've just got to learn it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty user friendly.
it is.
Yeah, but it does take time and, I was gonna say, Dr. Moran, one of my challenges also is one day I'm working on a board report and the next day I'm working on a logo, and so I think that's the other thing is I think it confuses my voice. And so, sometimes your doctor, I mean, I don't know if you're using the same chat GPT for work and for personal, but I think for
I
me,
am.
that's what happens to me is that one day I'm working on something for home or for personal, and then the next day I'm working on something for work or for a committee I'm on. And so I think my voice, we dabble in so many different things. I'm not always one voice.
But you can tell it,
Right.
use a more casual tone for this.
Right.
I'll
right.
tell you one thing that I love about it. So most of you know that I have some medical challenges. I can put in a really technical medical report and say, simplify this for me and tell me what
Oh,
it
that's
means.
cool. Yeah.
And it does. And it's great. And not only that, it'll link the sources so that I can then go and see more information about it. So
That's great.
so anyway, enough about that.
Yeah, thank you.
And I appreciate the dialogue, and I think that, this is really about us learning from each other, and that is, networking and continuously learning from each other and from, professional sources is really important. And I think that, like we talked about, it's really about being strategic in our goals and in our life and, using these tools and techniques and strategies to for our better, to better ourselves. And, let me see if there's anything else. I think I'm wrapping up here. If anybody has anything else, anybody have any tips or strategies or anything else they want to share before we move on?
It'd be nice to hear from some people we haven't heard from. Well,
That's okay.
okay.
Well, I'm gonna wrap up by just saying that I hope it motivates you to gain and use industry knowledge and really, set some goals and, don't be like me with your networking event and not go in with a plan or a goal or a strategy. And, now when I go to networking events, I do have a plan and a strategy. And, some of that was developed naturally, but I intentionally make plans, like I said, to meet up with someone on the opening night, knowing that I'm in a city by myself versus going back to my room and saying, well, that was a dud. I didn't enjoy that. Well, you got to make your own, professional growth as well as make your own happiness. And so I think that's really important. And I'm going to end, I have one more slide here. So as I said, this is Janet Roach said this.
Okay, I like your
You
photo.
must set a goal to meet, you must set a goal to meet it, and you have to plan for your success. So that's what I've got to say.
Thank you
I
so
hope
much.
we learned something fun.
All right. Thank you, Janet. anyone have, we got lots of claps coming from
yay,
the
thank
audience,
you.
so anyone have anything else you'd like to share with us before we call it a night? Any feedback for Janet? Any thoughts?
Great presentation, Janet.
Thank you.
Awesome
Jenny.
presentation. I agree.
Thank you, guys. And obviously, as the program chair, I'm going to use this moment to say, you know, this was just something I'm passionate about. But, you know, for next year, we are looking for programs.
Mhm.
And it could be, you know, what are you an expert at, or what is it you want to learn more about? You know, obviously, you know, I'm not an expert in this, but this is something that I really believe in. And so, you know, please sign up next year to do a program, and I'll help you. And, you know, we'll get you through, and, you know, or find a speaker, you know, but so that's the next thing that we will discuss in July. But I'm off my soapbox, and thank you so very much, everybody. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And just to add to that, like, we'd love to hear from people such as Elizabeth, who maybe has some things to share about her property and then some industry information related to the kinds of things she does that would benefit planners and suppliers. So we welcome voices from everybody.
Yep.
And yeah, looking forward to seeing everybody at the summit. If you haven't already registered, please do so. We are down to just 2 tables left. So we have a lot of good sponsors and a lot of great meeting planners attending as well. So more information to come on that. But thank you all so much, and looking forward to seeing you in July.
Well, I was just saying, before we
Yeah.
close, I also think for those of us that are attending, we should talk about carpooling or figuring out what that looks like. I'm definitely going. I just haven't registered yet, but you know, so please, you know, maybe we can start a separate group chat.
Sure.
or you know, get that going so that we can talk about that. There's no point in all of us driving separate.
Good idea.
So we could do that.
Great idea.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.